Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another in-depth guide, collaborative effort between me, Stardusk, and the Lord of the Nether Swamp, Caineghis. The Nether Swamp is Florida, for those of you who might not be familiar with the proper name of the state. Anyway, today we're going to be having a look at the Collector Adept. It is, in my opinion, the most fun, most interesting adept in the game, and certainly my favorite. Some might be technically better in terms of DPS, but this guy can do it all. He's very versatile, and he's, of course, just for lore reasons, very, very interesting. That's why I like him the most. I just think the concept of a vengeful spirit coming back from, essentially from the grave to take vengeance on his former masters is just an awesome concept, very cool. So let's launch into it then. The Collector Adept is a character that I view as a biotic soldier. And I had done a guide in the past, which I recommended a power build, or I didn't so much as recommend, but as one possible way of playing him. This is a weapons platform build, and ultimately more effective than the power build in my assessment. So this is a biotic soldier. I'm reminded of the words of Javik when Liara asked him if he knew anything about the catalyst. He said, no, he didn't. He was a soldier, not a scientist. And that's how I like to play the ascended, vengeful spirit that we call the Collector Adept. So let's launch into the build. As far as powers are concerned, his bread and butter is Dark Sphere. He's the only character in the game that has it, and is a very useful power. It does quite a bit of damage, and it's very useful crowd control as well. For Evolution 4, I take Radius. Then for 5, I take Recharge, and then for 6, I take more Radius. You might be asking yourself, Radius, Radius, Radius. I can't stress enough how important Radius is in this context, for the simple reason that you want Dark Sphere to encompass and engulf as many enemies as possible. Remember, this is a slow power, you lob it, it's not a precision power. If you take any other evolution that will not increase radius, you are losing your ability to affect the crowd. So it doesn't matter if you do a lot more damage, even 1,000 points more damage, if you're not affecting the targets that you're aiming at, then it's kind of pointless. So I don't view Dark Sphere as a boss killer, but it's certainly good for killing trash mobs, and it's very good for killing trash mob spawns. In addition, it's very good for just simply crowd control. You know, if you're in a tight spot, you can toss it with 9 meters. You're going to be able to hit everything, basically. And Dark Sphere is a power that can be used with a specific combo that I would recommend. I call it the fourfold Dark Sphere combo, the fourfold combo. That combo involves lobbing Dark Sphere towards a bunch of enemies, relying on the 9-meter radius to engulf and encompass virtually everything. Then you hit an enemy in that whilst the Dark Sphere is traveling towards the group of enemies. Then you hit one of those enemies with Dark Channel, and then you toss a Seeker Swarm to detonate, which I will get into in a second about Seeker Swarms, but they are detonators. You detonate that Dark Channel, and then whilst the enemies are being affected by the DOT of Dark Sphere, then you detonate Dark Sphere, you get a nice green biotic explosion. It does a ton of damage, and it decimates, especially trash mobs, virtually all enemies. And of course enemies will still be primed, they'll still have the DOT effect. But as regards to Recharge, apparently, based on good sources, the Evolution 5A is bugged. For a power with such a long cooldown, I think it really benefits from 35% recharge bonus, so I would go for that anyway. Remember, in this game, DOT is nice, but you want to kill enemies quickly, and DOT powers don't lend themselves to that. Better to kill an enemy quickly than rely on a DOT power. There aren't any exceptions to that, whether you're soloing, especially when you're soloing, or playing a team. So once again, radius, recharge speed, radius, and detonation. Radius. That will give you, in my opinion, optimal results with it. Going on with Seeker Swarms. Seeker Swarms are a very interesting power. They basically have two primary functions that I use them on this build for. One is as a detonator, toss it against prime targets. Watch the nice little green biotic. Well, the biotic explosions aren't green, but then they turn green, so that's cool. And of course the damage reduction. So I have 5 evolution ranks in Seeker Swarms. I go for the recharge speed, because once again the slow effect is pretty useless, I think. And then I go for the damage reduction. Even with just 3 Seeker Swarms, you're still going to have 30%, which is not insignificant. It's basically the base of tech armor, which is quite good. I skipped the final evolution. Why? Because I still want to take 3 ranks in Dark Channel. Why do I want to take 3 ranks in Dark Channel? Well, that's pretty simple, because Dark Channel is a great primer. I don't need all the ranks in it, because once again, DOT damage is fairly useless in this game compared to killing enemies quickly. But 3 ranks will give you the basis of what you need. It will prime targets, which will allow you to take advantage of warp ammo, which I'll get to in a little bit. It will have the plague effect. It will travel from one enemy to the next, and of course it will prime enemies for biotic explosions vis-a-vis seeker swarms. So that is a very useful function of it, but you don't need more than 3 ranks in it to make it effective. The almighty passive is very important, and I'm running him as a biotic soldier, so you could imagine that I take rank 4 weapon damage, rank 5 headshot damage, and then rank 6 weapon plus weapon damage plus collector protein weapon damage. So that will give you an overall 22.5% weapon damage, and on top of that 10% multiplicative bonus on collector protein weapons, of which there are 4 in the game, which I'll talk about in a bit. And that is very, very, very nice indeed. I also, for role-playing reasons, I think it was just a very good idea, interesting idea on the part of BioWare to do that. So, having said that, yes, he's running as a weapon platform. And just as a reminder, the way multiplicative bonuses work is everything is added up and then it's multiplied by a factor of whatever that might be, in this case 10%, as opposed to additive, where it's just added up and that's it. So if you have a lot of SMG gear on using Collector SMG, they'll add all that up with a multiplicative bonus, then you'll multiply it by the multiplicative bonus and then add that further to it, meaning you can get some pretty good DPS out of this guy with Collector Protein weapons. The final evolution, the fitness tree, Vengeful Ancient, is one of those rare cases where it might be debatable whether you go the top ranks, which are normally melee ranks, in this case it's not, or you go the bottom ranks, simply full fitness. I go for full fitness. Why? It's not because the top ranks are useless, but I find personally that it's far too situational. Yes, you can use Ascension mode, and that's what I'm talking about here, Ascension mode, to increase your damage output, but then again, you take a lot more damage. And I guess if you're careful, it's good, but not, especially on a team game, I don't find it very useful. I don't see the point in activating. Activation time takes a long time. And then again, it only lasts 45 seconds, so I don't really bother. In theory, it's a nice concept. One could use it, I guess, and it certainly looks cool, but I tend to skip it, so I go out for the bottom ranks. And why? Because then you'll have over 800 health and over 1,200 barriers on top, and then on top of that, 30% on this build, 30% damage reduction by way of Seeker Swarms, and that is just really nice. So he's pretty tanky. At the same time, he has a very good dodge as well. I mean, note, with his dodge, you can get out of the way of Banshee warps, Praetorian lasers, and I used to think that the amount of ground it covers is a disadvantage, but in many ways it's a very nice advantage. If you have abominations or husk heading towards you, it covers so much ground. It's very useful, and on top of that, he's tanky. And the other cool thing about it, and this has not been confirmed, but I believe based on testing in gameplay, that the dodge does add damage resistance. So if you get hit whilst you're dodging, whilst you're using your bug wings, you'll actually take less damage, which is very useful. And it kind of lends itself to the style that I like playing: bob and weave, fire, bob and weave. So let's talk about the weapons. It is a weapon platform, so it makes sense to say, well, here are the weapons. I, for role-playing reasons, like to just stick, ideally, to just 3 weapons on the guy. I don't see a point in not taking Collector Protein weapons, of which there are 4 in the game, on this guy, because you might as well just run a different ad if you're going to do that. I mean, yeah, you could take the Harrier, or you could take the Lancer, or what have you, but what's the point? You don't get the multiple bonuses. It lacks the role-playing force. So there are 4 weapons, and I'm going to talk about all 4 of them, since there are only 4 of them, in ascending order, meaning from worst to best in my assessment on this guy. By far the worst, in my opinion, is the Collector Sniper Rifle, which I will gloss over. It's not really that great. It suffers from several weaknesses, even though it does pretty good damage, especially with his bonuses. One, an Infiltrator would probably use it better anyway, because they get the massive multiple bonuses vis-a-vis Tactical Cloak. B, it's a fire tap weapon. It kind of has to be a fire tap weapon, because if you press continuously on the trigger, you're going to blow out of your ammo, and you'll be forced to overheat mode, which the recharge speed of which takes a fair bit. So you have to fire tap it. That can be quite annoying. It's not very efficient. You run out of ammo. pretty quickly, and only has 45 rounds. And there's no way to ameliorate that. There's no, for example, extended magazine or what have you. So, Collector Sniper Rifle, by far, in my assessment, the worst weapon on him. The third worst or third best, depending on how you view it, weapon is certainly the the Collector Assault Rifle. It's okay overall on him. It's pretty decent. He makes the leap from okay to pretty decent, but it's still far from brilliant. Reason being is it just doesn't have a high damage output to begin with. It fires the accuracy is great, but it fires very slowly. Even with his bonuses, he can't really make it shine. And so it is a pretty nice weapon, but it's not one I would recommend taking on him unless you have some sort of fetish for the Collector Assault Rifle. I used to like it a lot in Mass Effect 2. In this game, not so much. So it's no. So let's talk about the two main weapons choices that really comes down for him are between the Prothean Particle Rifle and the Collector SMG. I think Collector SMG is superior to the Prothean Particle Rifle on him for a few reasons, but so I'll talk about the second best, in my opinion, the Prothean Particle Rifle. Obviously, fantastic weapon, does a lot of DPS, very good. But the problem with it is it's fairly heavy. So on this build, I'm recommending you have 100% cooldown, which is on a lot of classes great, but with powers with long cooldowns like Seeker Swarm and Dark Sphere, 100% is not nearly as good as 195%, which you would get with the Collector SMG, as well as the Expert package, which I'll talk about in a bit. So it's fairly heavy. The other major issue is I view this guy as a sort of tanky but agile character, and a bob and weave character, as I like to call him. But with the Prothean Particle Rifle, you're stuck in ramp-up mode. The Fat Beam is the major issue of DPS with the Prothean Particle Rifle. It's great once you get the Fat Beam going, but it takes a little while. In the meantime, if you have to dodge enemy fire, Banshee warp balls, it means every time you're going to have to start again with a ramp-up, which can be pretty irritating, distracting, and ultimately will reduce your DPS, not increase it. So it's essentially the Prothean Particle Rifle. It's very good on him because you get the bonuses, the Collector, the Prothean bonuses from multiple passive and what have you, but it's essentially too clunky on him in my assessment. So it's great, but I would still take the Collector SMG even on Platinum. So I'm going to tell you how to turn. Oh, before going on, if you do take the Prothean Particle Rifle, the recommended weapon mods are quite clear. You want to take the extended magazine and take the normal armor piercing mod. You don't need it anymore, especially if you take warp, which I would recommend that you only take warp ammo on this character, because between the warp armor weakening and the 65%, it should be enough by far. Moving on to the Collector SMG, which is absolutely my favorite weapon on this guy, for a lot of reasons. It's super light, 195% cooldown. It has inherent armor bonus, and armor is the biggest problem in the game. It's the hardest to chew through, more so than barriers or shields or what have you, and certainly more so than health. And he gets all the bonuses from it as well. I mean, a lot of people have said it's a caster weapon, and it is, but on most classes I wouldn't take Collector SMG onto Platinum, because it just doesn't have the damage output, whereas on him, in conjunction with biotically primed targets, warp ammo, and his bonuses, multiple bonuses, it really makes it shine, even on Platinum. So you can kill a Platinum Banshee pretty quickly with the Collector SMG. At the same time, it doesn't have a ramp-up, so it lends itself to the bob and weave style. You're dodging, firing, dodging, and at the same time, it's a recharge weapon, so it kind of fits in too. Once, if you're firing the Banshee, there's a warp hit, you dodge, and that time your weapon's already recharging and going back to maximum ammo, so it's very useful. The mods I would recommend, of course, are the obligatory on the Collector SMG, just like the Prothean Particle Rifle. The extended magazine is, you'll have 72 rounds that way, and those 72 rounds are quite important. And then it's, in theory, up to you. I mean, you could take a power amplifier if you're really big on that. You could take, well, the extended barrel, the damage barrel, but then you have to take armor piercing, which doesn't synergize as well with his powers. So ultimately, the best deal set up for him is the high velocity barrel and the extended magazine, and that way you have 90% armor reduction vis-a-vis high velocity barrel, as well as taking warp ammo, I mean, you're going to chew through armor pretty quickly. So always take warp on this guy with the Collector SMG. 3 is great, 4 is even better. So if you can take 4, go for it. As far as gear and equipment consumables are concerned, I mean, take what the highest level SMG rail hemp that you have, if you can afford to do so. Then I like taking cyclonics on him for the simple reason that cyclonics lend themselves well to his sort of tanky nature. Again, it's 150% bonus. You can take over 2 Banshee warp balls and still have before you go down to health on platinum. It's a little over 2, I believe, and that's pretty effective. Alternatively, you could take the power mod if you really have a fetish for that, or if you like being really quick, I guess you could take an adrenaline mod. And if you want an even better recharge speed, I suppose you could take a recharge mod as well. I'm sorry, recharge mod, recharge consumable. But I think my first recommendation would be cyclonic. Second might be adrenaline, and third might be power amplifier. The others I probably wouldn't bother with. As far as gear is concerned, there are 2 choice pieces of gear. One would be the expert package, because it gives you a 12% SMG damage bonus and 12% recharge bonus as well. I mean, you're going to have an even better recharge for those long CD powers like Seeker Swarms and Dark Sphere, and you get 12% bonus, which will be added up and then multiplied by the multiplicative bonus for the Collector SMG. So that will give you very impressive damage output. And that is how the setup I would use. And like I said, you want to play bob and weave. The techniques, it is a Biotic soldiers. You always want, I mean, to the extent that you can, you always want to be firing at prime targets. So be it Dark Sphere prime, Seeker Swarm primed, or Dark Channel, that's when you want to be firing your weapon to take advantage of that 100% damage with Warp 4, or even just 75% with Warp 3 to do extra damage against enemies. It's very effective, and that is how I would play him. So that's the guide, more or less. Very fun character, and this will be, in my opinion, the most effective way to play it, all the while maximizing the fun factor. So thanks for watching. Thanks to Caineghis for collaborating with me on this, and I hope to see you in the future for a possibly another in-depth guide. So everyone take care, and may the gods watch over you.